when we just realized that if we really want this to have the most potential that it could, we need to go to the next level, and just having these small fundraisers here and there aren't going to do it. And so we thought, okay, let's do another $500,000 round, and that's what our goal was. Let's go out and see if we can get another 500, bring in another developer, bring in a salesperson, like just really bring in people who are focused on things that they're good at. And after a few conversations, everyone just kept saying, well, why are you only raising 500? And we said, I don't know. That's all we really need right now. And what ended up happening was we were kind of convinced by Argonne Ventures, who introduced us to York, that you guys really need to raise a little bit more in order to make this scale in the way that you want to, and to move the business forward. So we originally wanted a $500,000 again, bridge round was what we thought, and we ended up closing a seed round in September of last year, oversubscribed with $1.8 million.
Congratulations. And that's where York comes in.
Yes.
Kyle, what were you seeing? And obviously you guys have built a very specific investment thesis and engagement out on a number of different fronts. But in terms of the investment that you guys make, you are looking at for very specific companies and what they can do, given your experience at Dine and other places. Walk us through it.
Yeah, well, so first and foremost, we see a lot of SaaS businesses getting built these days out of services businesses. So this has become a very interesting trend, and it's happened especially over the last 5 or 6 years as cloud and on-demand services have become available for entrepreneurs, right? And so Jess and team seeing a gap in their industry and their market, and building technology to tech enable their agency to then spin that out and realize hopefully the enterprise value, Jess, we all see happening, is really something we've seen a lot. We've seen this in so many of our portfolio companies. If you look through York portfolio companies, a lot of them were MSPs, MSSPs, agencies, boutique consultancies, independent consultancies, very, very common. We're seeing a lot of that. The other thing we're seeing a lot of is vertical software. And although Jess is more of a horizontal approach that anyone can use their platform, there was definitely that wedge into agencies and agency partners as clients for their customers that we saw as a great, get one vertical nailed, and then one to many through that vertical is also a great distribution strategy. I think we have a long-standing relationship with Bob Mason and the team at Argonne Ventures. We've done, of our 50 investments, maybe 10% have been with Argonne in New England. They focus a lot, like us, on data platforms, on infrastructure, on cybersecurity, on AI. These are areas that we really like. We also focus right around the same stage. We tend to come in a click later, where there are a lot of pre-seed. We're seed really, and I think our average round we're participating in is probably more like a $3 to $4 million round. And the average ARR we're seeing is probably in the 600K ARR range. It's kind of how we're defining seed today. But we really just like Jess and the team. It's kind of rare when you see that many co-founders, that have actually been together that long and have the trust and rapport and complementary skill sets. A lot of times it's one founder or two founders, and they're missing a bunch of ingredients, and we just felt that it was a really complementary team and a trust and loyal based team that we really like to work with.
And I think if I'm sitting here on the call being like, well, listen, it sounds like a fair amount of capital in a time that's hard to raise and everything else. Like, what do these guys know about raising money when capital is scarce? They got it. They've got it all. And I think Jess, what I want to dive into is actually it's kind of been a workaround way of getting here, and you've given us a little bit of the clip notes here on how you guys got there. But I think that the important pieces of this are actually how you've been stewards of the capital throughout the time that you've gotten it, and also how you've achieved those milestones, and continuing to build a company that in its roots was a bootstrap company is bringing on venture capital at different points, but is basically running at a really lean and efficient way, and continue to, because that's the nature of who you guys are and the kind of business you're running and the VCs that you have, all tailor-made for 2024. Can you walk us through a little bit of like how you guys have been making your decisions as a team, with your customers, all that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you're right. We are always going to run lean in a way. I mean, I still can't really wrap my head around spending the money that sometimes I feel like we have to spend to get to where we are, because that's not who I am. It's not who the team is. We've always kind of worked as lean as possible. But I think in this case, one of the things I kind of had to realize was how to explain our product and how to explain where we were going and how to explain the value to the customers that we had currently. And I think, when we first started thinking about raising, it was, I'd say, the middle of May. And so we had a lot of conversations. I mean, this was not every single person we talked to, all of a sudden we had 1.8. It was one person agreed, I think, in June. And that was 2 months of tons and tons of conversation, and then getting one other person, and then getting one other person, and starting to have that momentum towards the end. So I think, it was a lot of maybe mistakes on my part on how I was presenting the tool and talking about our growth and talking about what might be important to investors. And what I realized kind of throughout that process was I wasn't talking enough about our current customers and how happy they were, and how our new customers were actually coming a lot from our old customers, and how do we pour fuel on that? We had lost one customer in the entire time that we are a business, and we still have that number to this day. Knock on every piece of wood around me. Of course, that will change as we have more and more clients, but I think the reason behind that was that our product, in our opinion, is good. Our customer was the right customer, and they really enjoyed using the tool. And I wasn't speaking enough about that. And I think as soon as I started talking about our churn rate and how there really was none, the one customer we lost was because of COVID. Their business closed, and unfortunately we lost them as as a business. But not only that, but I think the other thing that probably swayed Argon a little bit, and I hope I can say this, I think I'd say it if Bob and Andy were here, was just that we had clients from 3 or 4 people in a platform to 15,000. And we really had that kind of scalability. The tool wasn't set for just a small business or just a mid-market business or just an enterprise business. It could be really used the way we built it. It can be used across the map. So there was a lot of opportunity to be used by a lot of different types of businesses. So as soon as I started focusing on that, I think people would go, oh, wait a minute, you have an account that has 15,000 users in it. And I said, yeah. And they don't have any problems. And I said, not that I know of. So it was kind of I had to kind of feel out what was resonating with people, and that seemed to resonate.